year ago, United States-China relations reached one of their lowest points when Donald Trump announced his Liberation Day tariffs. The US president made some concessions when he met his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, a few months later. Pakistan's Fatima Sana has broken the record for the fastest half-century in women's T20 international cricket matches with a 15-ball 50 against Zimbabwe and Karachi, Pakistan. Playing at home, the all-rounder top scored with 62 runs off 19 balls as Pakistan beat the visitors by 133 runs and sealed the series 3-0 at the National Stadium on Friday.
Israel and Lebanon have agreed a 45-day extension to a shaky ceasefire following 2 days of negotiations in Washington, D.C., the U.S. State Department said. We hope these discussions will advance lasting peace between the two countries, full recognition of each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and establishing genuine security along their shared border, said State Department spokesman Tommy Pigott. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says strikes targeting Russia's oil industry and military production facilities are entirely justified after Moscow flattened an apartment block in Kyiv, killing at least 24 people. On Friday, Zelensky warned that Russia's attacks would not go unpunished, saying he had discussed long-range strikes with senior military, security and intelligence officials as a day of mourning was observed in Kyiv, following Thursday's attack on a 9-story apartment block in the capital's Darnitsky district.
China has agreed to buy 200 Boeing jets, with a potential for the order to rise to as many as 750 planes, United States President Donald Trump has said, adding that the planes would have GE aerospace engines. The deal includes approximately 200 planes and a promise of up to 750 if they do a good job, Trump told reporters on Air Force One on Friday. More details about the deal, such as which type of jets and when the order would be delivered, not immediately available.
Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is visiting Alberta, days after a separatist movement in the Western province faced a major legal setback in its push for a referendum on the issue. Carney's visit on Friday was officially to unveil a new agreement laying the groundwork for a crude oil pipeline alongside the province's Premier, Danielle Smith.
There are currently 10 global cases of hantavirus, the World Health Organization, WHO, has said, lowering its earlier figure of 11 after a person who was thought to have contracted hantavirus was confirmed to be negative. Maria van Kerkhove, the director of the WHO's Department for Epidemic and Pandemic Preparedness and Prevention, said on Friday that the earlier count included one individual who had an inconclusive test. We've had further confirmation from the United States that person was negative.
It's no secret that AI data centers have been straining the grid, but Silicon Valley has been relatively insulated from it all, thanks to high land and power prices that have pushed hyperscaler projects elsewhere. The tech elite might soon get a taste of the power crunch, though. The Bay Area's vacation land, Lake Tahoe, has less than a year to find a new energy supplier. A hotel check-in system left more than 1 million customer passports, driver's licenses and selfie verification photos to the open web after a security lapse. The data is now offline after TechCrunch alerted the company responsible. The hotel check-in system, called Tabik, is maintained by the Japan-based tech startup Trekria. According to its website, Tabik is used in several hotels across Japan to check guests in and relies on facial recognition and document scanning to check guests in.
The Capital Development Authority, CDA, has approved the abolition of 1,062 vacant and redundant positions as part of a broader right-sizing and austerity drive aimed at streamlining administrative operations and reducing financial pressure on the public sector. The decision was formalised through a notification issued by the Human Resource Development Directorate on May 6, 2026, following approval during the CDA board's 5th meeting held in late April. The State Bank of Pakistan, SBP, has launched a nationwide Go Cashless campaign for Eid al-Adha 2026 aimed at promoting secure and convenient digital transactions in cattle markets across the country. The initiative forms part of the central bank's broader strategy to reduce reliance on cash and accelerate digitization of Pakistan's trading periods during one of the country's busiest seasonal trading periods.
The federal government on Friday reduced petrol and diesel prices by Rs 5, according to a notification issued by the Petroleum Division. According to the notification, the revised prices will take effect from May 16.
A judge has declared a mistrial in the rape case against Harvey Weinstein after the jury in New York said it was deadlocked and unable to reach a verdict. It marks the third time a New York jury has considered the case against the 74-year-old disgraced film mogul, who remains jailed on other charges. Despite a fragile US-brokered ceasefire in Gaza, Israel carried out a strike targeting Hamas's most senior military leader, according to a joint statement from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz. Israel held Izz al-Din al-Haddad responsible for being one of the architects of the Hamas-led attack on October 7, 2023, and for holding hostages in the attack's aftermath. Israel also accused al-Haddad of refusing to implement the agreement led by US President Donald Trump for Hamas to disarm and for the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz on Friday said he would advise his children against living or studying in the United States at the moment, citing a rapidly changing social climate and limited opportunities even for the highly educated. The remarks highlight tensions between the United States and its European allies under President Donald Trump, with disputes over trade, the wars in Ukraine, and now Iran putting the NATO alliance under strain.
3 people have died after a hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship, which provoked global concern and revived memories of COVID-19. Experts stress it is not the same virus, but after the pandemic, trust is fragile. What does this cruise ship outbreak reveal? In this episode, Russia launched more than 1,400 drones and 56 missiles into Ukraine on Wednesday and Thursday. Much of the onslaught was aimed at the capital, Kyiv. Days after Russia threatened to do so, only if Ukraine attacked its Victory Day parade in Moscow's Red Square on May 9. It is a major Russian holiday commemorating the end of the Second World War. United States President Donald Trump has departed China following a 3-day trip, touting several broad trade deals, but suggesting little progress on key issues related to Taiwan. Trump's visit, the first of his second pomp and circum-term, was filled with pomp and circumstance, including a greeting from waving children and a military honor guard, a private tour of a secretive former imperial garden, and the Confucian 15th century Temple of Heaven.
Tesla robotaxis have crashed at least twice since July 2025, while a teleoperator was remotely driving the vehicles, according to newly unredacted information submitted to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration (NHTSA). Both crashes happened in Austin, Texas, and occurred at low speeds. In each case, there was a safety monitor behind the wheel, and no passengers were on board. The federal government has reduced petrol and diesel prices by 5 per litre for the next 7 days, sources informed Pro-Pakistani. Following the latest revision, petrol will now be priced at 409.78 per litre, while diesel will stand at 409.58 per litre. IG Railways Police Mohammad Wasi Fakhre Sultan, along with SRP Rawalpindi and DSP RPA, conducted a detailed visit on May 15, 2026, to railway land and related sites on Shah Bukhari Road, Rawalpindi, which were retrieved during the recent Antani encroachment operation. During the visit, the IG Railways Police issued clear instructions that no encroachments should be allowed to re-emerge on the retrieved railway land under any circumstances. He stated that protecting railway land and other assets is a key responsibility of the Railways Police, and emphasised that these valuable assets should be utilised effectively to increase Pakistan Railways' revenue.
While Donald Trump and Xi Jinping were hailing their friendship for the cameras, it was less amicable for the rival Chinese and US security services, from a standoff over a US Secret Service agent's weapon to a US staffer trampled during a melee. Tensions bubbled to the surface throughout Trump's visit to Beijing.
The United States has cancelled the planned deployment of 4,000 soldiers to Poland, US officials said Friday, as Washington reorganises its forces in Europe after announcing it would withdraw thousands of troops from Germany. The head of US European Command received the instructions on the force reduction. General Christopher Leneve, the acting chief of staff of the US Army, said during a congressional hearing when asked about the cancelled deployment.
A second day of talks between Israeli and Lebanese officials is taking place in Washington, D.C. Despite ongoing Israeli attacks and ceasefire violations in Lebanon, both delegations, including each country's ambassador to the United States, arrived at the State Department on Friday morning for the continued discussions, the third round of direct negotiations between the two sides this year.
Chelsea versus Manchester City. What? English FA Cup final, where? Wembley Stadium in London, United Kingdom. When? Saturday, May 16 at 3 p.m, 14 GMT. How to follow? We'll have all the build-up on Al Jazeera Sport from 11 GMT in advance of our live text commentary stream. History will be made on Saturday as Manchester City become the first side to line up in 4 consecutive finals as they take on Chelsea for the trophy. BRICS alliance of major developing economies has failed to issue a joint statement after their 2-day meeting in India, amid internal divisions over the Iran war, which is affecting several members. India hosted the foreign ministers' meeting in New Delhi and currently chairs the alliance. BRICS brings together core members Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, as well as newer members Ethiopia, Egypt, Iran, Indonesia and the UAE.
3 people died in a hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship, provoking global concern and reviving memories of COVID-19. Experts stress it is not the same virus, but after the pandemic, trust is fragile. What does the ordeal for the cruise ship passengers reveal? In this episode,
the United Arab Emirates is fast-tracking the construction of a new pipeline which will double the export capacity through Fujairah, a port city in the country's east. As Gulf nations seek to bypass the Strait of Hormuz, Crown Prince Sheikh Khaled bin Mohammed bin Zayed announced the acceleration of the West East Pipeline project to meet global demands. At an executive meeting held by the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, on Friday.
Federal Minister for Communications Abdul Aleem Khan has directed authorities to expand the Lahore-Sialkot motorway from 4 lanes to 6 lanes as part of efforts to improve traffic flow and transport infrastructure in Punjab. The directive was issued during a review meeting of the National Highway Authority, NHA, where progress on multiple motorway and highway projects was discussed. Federal Minister for Communications Abdul Aleem Khan has directed the construction of 2 new 6-lane motorway sections in Punjab as the government moves to expand the country's motorway network. The minister ordered that the Sialkot-Karian and Karian-Rawalpindi sections. The directives were issued during a review meeting of the National Highway Motorways, attended by senior officials of the National Highway Authority, including the Communications Secretary and the NHA Chairman.